Good morning. This is Dr. Rand at the Human Freedom Project. It's very good, again, as always, to be with you. I have really enjoyed going over the book that I wrote, and the book is called Rebuilding the Wounded Heart, God's Plan for the Restoration of the Soul. And as I talk about this book, there's various additional thoughts that I have that aren't in the book, and I will interject them from time to time. Today would be one of those. One of the things I want to talk about today, and the thing I want to talk about today, is the difference. I have studied mob bosses in the mob, and I've also studied Satan. And I have seen that there is a very direct correlation between those two. Now, if you're a political person, you can take the mob and apply it to both sides of the aisle, but especially to one side. And I'm not going to discuss that at this point. You have a mind of your own, and you can figure that out for yourself. But I'm just going to talk about the mob and how Satan is the ultimate mob boss. And so as we look at that, we are very interested in who Satan is. And we've talked about Satan, and so you can go back to those particular presentations and videos. But today I'm going to talk about, first of all, how the mob is formed and how it organizationally is. Then I want to discuss how the mob and Satan are so well correlated. And then the third thing I would like to say is how the mob and the satanic hierarchies are extremely similar. So I'm just going to finish with that today. If I don't have time, I will finish it next time. So first of all, in the mob, the boss is called a Don. And they're all Italian words from the Mafia. But it's interesting, the Mafia did not come just from Italy. I have found through my studies that, and through praying to God, is that when Marco Polo went the Great Silk Route to China, he brought the Mafia back with him. And if you look at the top 13 Illuminati families, the Li family of China is over all illicit activities, whether it be prostitution, gambling, whatever it is, drugs. The Li family all over the world is in charge, because every family is in charge of a certain aspect of the economy, and that's where they make their money. But when Marco Polo went there, he brought it back, the Mafia, and the Mafia began there. It didn't just begin in Italy. Now, I can't totally prove that, but in praying to God, I've had thoughts about it, and he said he agreed with me. Or I guess I agreed with him. So it's interesting how the mob was created in the first place. And the Li family is spelled differently, L-I-L-E-E, a lot of different ways. And if your family name is Lee, that doesn't mean you're an illicit a member of the occult. So don't go there. All right, as we talk about it today, that when the boss is the Don and he makes all major decisions, and all the income, except for a little bit, comes to him, he's very totalitarian. He's really in charge of everything. And he has to work from the bottom up to get there. Usually it's not something that is just handed to you right off the bat. You got to start out at the bottom and work your way up. Do all people in the mob go that way? No, sometimes there's family members that get special treatment, just like in our society. So all the income from the illicit activities below go to him. Maybe 25% go to the under people. And his authority is required for control in any disputes that happen. Whatever the boss says, that's the way it is. Now there's an underboss, and he's second in command, and he basically is trained to be the boss. And then there's a third section, or a third part, and that's called the consigliaria. He's an advisor to the Don. He is the mouth of the Don. The mouth does not get out in public and talk about things. He has other people talk for him. He wants to be totally isolated so that if there's any kind of legal problems, that he's insulated from them and they can't get to him. Now he is, the consigliaria is not directly involved in the criminal enterprises. A lot of times he is just a spokesperson. Many times he's a lawyer and knows how to work the system. But he also knows how to work the system, and he uses and abuses the court system and bribes judges and bribes other politicians and business leaders so that the Don is protected. Now the capos, they're the ones that a capo acts like a captain, capo captain, and he operates specific activities. Let's just say prostitution, let's say money laundering, let's say murders. He's the one that they go to and say, okay, you do this, you do that. And he operates specific activities. Now, he is only successful if he earns a great amount of money. So it's up to him to get the right people to work for him so they can make money and take down the people that have businesses and get money from them, extort them. I think the word would be bribe them, extort them, whatever he has to do, or murder to extort. Now the Maidmen they're the enforcers. They do all the dirty work. And so those guys don't really get paid a lot, but they're under compulsion and orders from on top. And if they don't do what they're supposed to do, they get taken out. If they want to fight and if they want to get in the other people's way, then they'll be gone. And the last part of the mob is those people who are not part of the mob at all, but are associates. Many of those people have been extorted or bribed to go along, and that would be the drug dealers, the assassins, the lawyers, the police, the politicians. Those are the associates. So as when you look at the mob and you see this, you see that the mob is very well organized. But we also know that Satan is organized. And Satan is organized in the sense that he knows that you need an organization to be able to handle all the issues that will be coming up. And if you're not organized, you won't do well. So as I look at Satan's hierarchy, I see, of course, that Satan is the boss. He's the Don. He's the one that fell in the first place and said, God, I can do your job. I can do it much better than you. I've been helping you for a period of time here, and I can see that you have endorsed me. You have said, I can do this, I can do that. And you're telling me that I'm secondary to you? No, I'm top dog. I guess we could call him a dog too, by the way he treats people. But he is a totalitarian person. Well, if there's a person of Jesus Christ, he's a spirit, so he's not a person. And so he is a spirit who controls the spirit world. And so he's highly insulated by the different spirits that are under him. And so when we're doing spiritual warfare, we very definitely have to work from the bottom up and to get the small demons first, and then we get the larger demons later, all the way up to Satan. But we also know that Satan is not going anywhere until Christ actually takes him out. And that'll be in the future. We do not know exactly when, but we're a lot closer to it now than we were a year ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago. It's imminent, but imminent to God and soon to God is sometimes quite a number of years. So if we get all caught up in times and dates, then we start thinking the wrong thing. And God does not want us to know the future, because then we don't have to have faith. So my faith is based on the fact that God is coming. He is going to come back. He is going to put Satan in the pit for almost 1,000 years. And at the end of those 1,000 years, he will come out for a while to give people choices that have not accepted him yet. And then he'll be totally put in the pit forever. However, that's future. And we have to live with the here and now. The here and now is what matters. And God tells us to live one day at a time. So as we live one day at a time, we know that there's a boss who has all the authority, and that's Satan. It's authority on this earth, and the authority is the world system. And we've heard in politics, we've been hearing about a world government and a world system. Well, that's all about Satan. It's not about God. God talks about the earth. Satan talks about the world system. So that's how he confuses people. So second in command, I would say, would be Lucifer. He's an angel of light. He created the New World Order from Adam and Eve from the very beginning. The New World Order began way back, way back at the beginning of time and space. And time and space has been running right through to today. And when Satan is finally put away, Lucifer will be too, as well as all the other demonic spirits. And Lucifer's light will be snuffed out. Lucifer's light, there's black light and there's white light. God has white light and it's reflected. Satan has black light that looks like white light, but it's refracted and it's full of lies and deceptions. So he created the New World Order. Then the third, and that's just like the underboss. The consigliaria in Satan's domain is basically the false prophet and the Antichrist, and all the false deities that come under that. And basically, the false prophet and the Antichrist are God's mouthpiece, or Satan's mouthpiece, just like the consigliaria. They have false prophecies, they have false statements, they pretend to be something that they're not. And it's just major deception after major deception after major deception. So all the deceptions that we see in this world are basically the deceptions of Satan's kingdom, the world system. So then the capos, the captains are all the fallen angels. There's 4 levels of those, and there's the fallen angels in the heavenly places. And as God has spoken to me, he says the stars in the heavens, many of them are inhabited by high-level demonic spirits that, when called by people on earth, can come into that person, be used by that person, and then they go back to their domain. In my experience in counseling, I have seen this happen right before my eyes. I have seen a person that's just overcome all of a sudden. I had a person, big old huge guy, football player. All of a sudden I saw his eyes changed and Satan himself came into him. Not just a smaller level Satan, they're all on different levels, but Satan came into him and he got up and he was coming after me. And I simply said, and I've learned this, I said, in Jesus' name, sit down. And he immediately flew back in his chair. And we have the authority. And that is the important thing to remember. The authority of God is ours, and we do not have to worry about that. If we have the faith that God is going to protect us, it will happen. All right, so the levels are the principalities and rulers. They influence the earthly rulers, like Putin and Biden and Trump and all the people of Netanyahu, who may not be there much longer. Just every leader, Macron, I mean, I could, if I took the time, I could think of them all, but every leader in this world is being beset by the principalities and rulers. The powers are, they spread the power of evil and darkness. That's their job. And the rulers of the dark age, they put out murder, witchcraft, heresy, just every kind of evil that you can think of. That's their job, the rulers of this dark age. And then fourthly is the wicked spirits. And they are religious spirits. And they are in churches. And as they are religious spirits and in churches, what they do is, in many cases, and this is pretty interesting, in many cases, in the occult, they raise some of their kids to become pastors, go to seminary, become pastors. But they have level 1, which is the boardroom, and level 6, which is the occult. And so they can flip back and forth. They can get into churches, but then in level 6, they can be operating, and the level 1 doesn't know what the level 6 is doing. And that's called dissociation. And so they do that in the churches. Now, the 5th level, the Maidmen, that's basically the same as the demons, who are basically spirits that were from the Nephilim and the spirits before the time of Noah, where God had to wipe everything out so that the spirits lived on, but the people died. And the its, whatever they turned out to be, there were giants in the earth at that time. But the spirits of those people are called demons. And finally, the associates is like mankind himself. And mankind is Satan's persons that just go along with him, and they're going to do his will because they don't protect themselves and they don't listen to God's will. They listen to Satan's will by being ignorant and not putting on the whole armor of God, which we'll talk about in the next video. So I would like to just say a few things about how are the mob and the satanic hierarchies similar. First of all, I would say they are led by a totalitarian leader, one who has total authority. It's not really what Christ does. Christ gives everybody a choice. There's no choice when it comes to the mob and or Satan. It's his way or no way. Second thing is there's extreme materialism in the mob. It's all about making money. It's all about how we can be more powerful through all the money and through all the ways of manipulation. And thirdly, it's everybody in the occult except the boss is insulated from the boss is insulated from the underlings so that he is well protected. And Satan really is not going to be taken out until God himself takes him out through Christ and the Holy Spirit. Then the next thing is these bosses and Satan control through manipulation and fear. And I want to look at how manipulation and fear affects a person, because that's what both of them do. Fear is you either do this or something bad will happen to you. So they put fear in people's minds, and people are run by fear. Look at the pandemic that we've had for a year and a half. Again, I'm not going to politically talk about that, but there's been a lot of irrational fears. We'll just leave it at that. And people who are intimidated by the mob and Satan, some of them are irrational fears, but some of them are real because the mob backs it up with death or extortion or bribery or whatever they need to do to get the money. The second part of manipulation is flattery. Do this and you're a good person. So just go along with us and nothing will happen to you. Everything will be fine. So the fear is put into the people by the flattery and by them trying that first. And I would think the mob would try that first, and then they would threaten. The third thing is bribery. Do this, and I'll do this for you. So it's a tit for tat. You do this, I'll do that. And the fourth thing is violence. Do this or else. And it's both. And both the mob and Satan attack the righteous, more so than others. And I don't know how that works exactly, but I see that really good people are attacked. People who are going after God are attacked from both sides. People to the mob and to Satan are just pawns to be used. And they make men disobey even though they want to out of the fear of manipulation. There's all kinds of lies and deceptions that happen. And we're accused all the time of doing things that we never did, but they accuse us to make us fearful. So after saying all this, you can see that there is a direct connection to the mob and Satan. And so as we talk about that, you can extrapolate that into your life, into different churches that you're in, into different associations that you have, and you can tell that whether a person through discernment is a manipulator and one who causes fear by being a totalitarian person. So that's enough for today on this subject, but I want you to remember this, that if the Son has freed you, you will be free indeed. So goodbye, and God bless.